Hello everyone. Welcome to Atlassian Summit 2020. And thank you for joining my session today, where I am going to take you through an interesting journey of a bank with a rich ancient history. So let's start with my introduction. Yeah, I'm Yasha Dabas, and I'm currently leading the organizational agility and innovation um, in the technology department of Standard Chartered Bank. How am I adding value to my role? Having played several business and tech facing roles in large enterprises, I would now like to call myself a technologist who is preparing the bank for future of work in all ways. Outside work, I like to challenge myself with international Spartan races, as you can see in these inspiring pictures. And I also like to paint in my leisure time. So yeah, this keeps me busy. Um, so just enough about me to give you an idea that what kind of role Standard Chartered Bank is establishing to rewire the DNA in banking. It is indeed a 160-year-old bank, still thriving, surviving, I must say, and growing at the same time. Our tagline, as you can see here, 160 plus year old bank, here for good, busy rewiring the DNA in banking. How we imagine a century old bank. So, for an organization, I can imagine with such a long history, the obvious mental picture that one forms is full of these visuals, like old legacy, traditional, and manual, far from any kind of innovation. What are these pictures saying? Retail branches loaded with people forming long queues, waiting for their turns for a teller to attend, or dependency on some outdated machines, heavy paperwork, and never ending processes and policies to abide by. And this is where we started with, right? So I won't say that we have never seen this or we have never faced this. This is exactly where we all started with. We have seen this age. But I would like to introduce today's Standard Chartered Bank in a different way. I would like to rather use this picture that shows our diverse business presence in 60 plus countries, as you can see, with 1,000 plus retail branches served by almost 80,000 employees who belong to around 125 nationalities. Quite proud of the diversity over here. This picture also shows few awards that we have gathered in recent years that acknowledges the journey of digitization. So it's not only about these flashy pictures. There's something going on for sure. So what are we going to talk about today? Story of technology infrastructure transformation. So we are a huge organization, and each pocket in the bank is building bridges to take our products and services to digital world. Hence, I will not be giving the entire credit to our technology and innovation department for where we are right now, because obviously it takes our business operations and product development counterpart to join hands in the transformation journey. What I will present here in front of you is the story of our tech infrastructure department that went through deep transformation and helped us make our mark in the banking and financial industry. So that I can proudly stand here and share our journey such that other enterprises can learn from our successes and mistakes that we made. So, what are we gonna cover? I have cautiously divided the whole journey into three dimensions. As you can see, the first dimension about people, second is processes and pipeline, third dimension is practices and mindsets. It's about three P's. And then we'll touch base on some benefits, success stories, and I would like to leave you all with some lessons learned that you can take away and apply. A sneak peek into the history. So before we start with the dimensions and the journey, um, let's look into the history. So all fruitful transformations start with the right why. Let's go back in history and review. Why did we do what we did? Yeah. So this picture pretty much summarizes the state of affairs few years back. Yeah. So the first picture over here, the first logo, the clock that you can see here, never-ending change life cycle. A typical change could take months or years to deliver to customer. Working in silo syndrome. Lots of good work, but in silos. Hence, lack of cross pollination or unintentional duplicate work. These are all the symptoms of working in silo. Something very close to my heart to remove as an impediment, local optimization. So, in absence of systems thinking, lot of toil created due to componentization. The big picture was missing, and that causes local optimization. Hence, also promote other kind of issues like working in silos and never-ending change life cycle. And last but not the least, death by manual processes. Number of manual controls, policies, processes, and approvals was a nightmare for both makers and checkers. So this this I think summarizes the right whys. There's no reason to look back and not change the way of work that we are doing as of today, right? This led us to the deep dive into three dimensions of technology, infrastructure, and transformation. So let's look at the first dimension, people. It's a very famous picture, must have seen or hoarding somewhere. As all the football fans across the world might have noted, Standard Chartered Bank is a proud sponsor of Liverpool Football Club. And this had been a very long association. The bank acknowledges the passion. We recently celebrated our 10 years of Red association with Liverpool. This is all about passion, grit, and hard work a team can bring in together. So now looking back at the challenges that we just talked about, we knew we clearly have to build a strong team and enable an open culture to be able to translate the vision of establishing a platform for entire bank where converting concept to cash using software delivery lifecycle becomes seamless and timely. And what does it take? People. This is a picture of one of our team's org design that was instrumental in this deep transformation for technology infrastructure organization. This org design is to facilitate the journey of converting the disbelief into trust and received permit to scale bank-wide. So I would say that this was a startup within a large organization when we started with this vision of um, dreaming something. I would like to summarize it as if I flash back to 3 years back when a handful of engineers, including myself, dared to dream something big that had never happened in the bank before, then this would be that one of the pillars that allowed that transformation to happen. So what was the key? The key was to build the right size teams aligned with the features to be built, all working in cadence to achieve a single outcome at each milestone. These teams that were designed around the features, the teams operated around the backlog based on agile squads performing end-to-end work. The entire life cycle, collaboration to analysis, to codify, to test, user confirmation, securitization, and deployment to production. I remember every 30 days we used to have demo days where all feature teams will demonstrate their work, 90 days big room planning to pivot the roadmap if required. And the end result was an MVP of our first product. What was that? Any guesses? An in-house DevOps pipeline ready to be onboarded by application teams bank-wide where they could build, test, run, and deploy automatically. So I'm sure right now you must be thinking that, it relates back to those four impediment areas that we talked about: death by manual processes and silos and systems thinking, right? Lack of systemic thinking. This org design is one of the pillars that is addressing that. So this was about people. Yeah. Integrating people with our second dimension, which is processes and pipeline. And you can guess now, I'm going to talk about that pipeline we are so proud of about. Um, as I was saying before, integrating pipeline with processes is a recipe to challenge local optimization. The second dimension was definitely to chalk out the end-to-end value stream map and identify the bottlenecks, most of which were manual processes in the chain that integrated the applications and causing a lot of handoffs. One way to visualize that for teams' acceptance was acknowledgement of the maturity level. To complement this pipeline, it was imperative to expose those process impediments and work with the allied groups to resolve wider blockers. So, how did we do that? I'll take you to the next picture here. You can see some graphs, you can see some percentages, and some kind of team score. A picture is worth 1,000 words. You can't preach people as much as you can show the end result in a nice red, blue, green graph. This came true with the DevOps maturity assessments done on application teams. Not only did it tell the overall maturity, but there are 13 areas such as team culture, roles, telemetry, source control, coding practices, provisioning, data management, etc., etc. And these teams were awarded maturity status anywhere between novice to expert within advice and also a plan on how to leap to next level. And this acted like a catalyst that motivated teams to improve their area and retake the assessment every 90 days. So, as I said before, it's complementary to the pipeline that people are using so that they know that which are the areas they have to focus on. A glimpse of our internally handcrafted DevOps pipeline. This should not be a surprise to anyone who is aware of a typical SDLC. The idea here was to integrate the various siloed stages of SDLC, bring teams and people together, and automate with the help of cutting-edge tools available from experts in the market. So some tools over here are created by ourselves, but a lot are market experts that we have sealed together. The biggest impact over here was the last mile, where we automated the process of productionizing the change by integrating the approved chain in BMC remedy, choice of tool, with the committed tested change via Jira workflow. So Jira workflow is very handy here. It tied up all the pillars together. And this one-click production process saved a lot of lives and families. I can't speak more about it. I can't stress more. So I'll give you a few seconds to look at the pipeline that we have here. It is addressing all these stages. And we have named it as VX DevOps pipeline. So if you hear from anyone of any SCB technologist, VX, don't get surprised. This is the name of our DevOps pipeline. Moving on. Every bank story is security, and you must be wondering, how did we work it out with regulators? So yes, it all started with DevOps pipeline, but it took no time for us to convert it into a DevSecOps pipeline, right? This is a perfect example of kill two birds with one stone. Automation of hefty compliance and security processes were the most time-taking blockers in the overall life cycle of a change. So how did we do that? Picture is speaking itself. There's the whole continuous integration deployment happening in the pipeline. Some key areas to highlight are the mandatory pull requests before the commits, static code scan, vulnerability tolerance checks, and of course zero touch deployment, production deployment. These were the some key milestones in the pipeline that reduce the overall cycle time of a change to offer to customers. I would like to mention next generation of this value stream is compliance as code. So watch out this space. Some of my fellow colleagues are right now building this, and we will be ready to present a case study on compliance as code very soon. Testimonials started coming in when we were doing the road shows within our global locations and inviting other industry experts. Something that I have quoted over here from Amazon Web Services, Microsoft. One of the most advanced in-house DevOps pipeline in any enterprise or financial organization. And it was quite reassuring to hear this from the industry champions that whatever we are doing, wherever we are lined up, it's all in good direction. It's all in the right direction. And this leads us to the third dimension, practices. You can see here the six drivers that we call as manifesto of our tech infrastructure organization. Practices are derived by mindset. And to have an open mindset is the key to any kind of transformation. So these six drivers, they are the focus. The focus was on an outcome-based value proposition. Supporting initiatives to drive these principles were role-based education and learning programs, restructuring the org design to suit the mindset, as per Conway's law, how whatever way you are organized is the same way that you will deliver, right? It will show, it will be a mirror image. Hence, it's key to look at that. And of course, generate easy plus simple services and products for everyone to be able to use, irrespective of their learning curve. And one example of that is this SRE phenomena introduced by Google fits very appropriately in our tech infra organization. So the in-house learning academy and roadshows, our own DevOps days, if you have heard about that, SCB DevOps days, was complemented by the organization redesign, such as the above example, where a typical L1, L2, L3 was transformed into an SRE team. And I can vouch database SRE was our first successful pilot. You can see here that a typical SRE team in our organization is built up of product SME, tool SME, platform subject matter expert, and automation engineers. And they're closely working with the application teams or agile squads, and not only closely working but also sharing a bit of backlog over here. Now, how to tie this up with the customer first approach as something that is key focus for us for next 3 years is our client journeys, customer experience journeys. So the third initiative to improve our practices as one of the key drivers was customer first approach. You can see here in this picture, it's one of the user journey for one of our cloud infrastructure teams. From customer perspective, it unveils the experience associated with each action in the journey. So using this kind of perspective provided chance to a lot of interfacing teams to work together and look at the big picture. Um, and we had our 90 days check-ins, 180 days check-ins, to first distribute the backlog among various groups and then regroup together to see to check on the progress. Example, right? Automated onboarding pipeline. No need for everyone to learn Groovy or DSL to be able to onboard their application on the pipeline. So the idea was that a script should be written to integrate input-based instructions automatically and onboard the applications, right? So this kind of self-service to provide these kind of self-service to customers is one of the areas where tech infrastructure departments in any organization can look forward to in terms of improvements. So I think I have said enough about the practices, and with this I have covered all the three dimensions by giving you a glimpse of some examples here and there. Now let's move on to the benefits that we realize. There are certain success stories that I would like to speak about. Speaking about the pipeline, we have almost 1,300 bank-wide applications, and this is the data that I've collected a few weeks back. Probably we are more in number now. Out of 1,300 applications, 800 applications are using the pipeline as of today, with different provisioning methods such as on-prem or cloud. And the change frequency, a typical change frequency, has increased by 150% for certain teams. It has reduced TAT, it has reduced mean time to recover, the typical DevOps metrics, and number of incidents have reduced by almost 30% for certain teams. So I have some visuals here from some of our teams. I would not like to name the teams, but these are a few teams that have used the pipeline, and they were able to reduce the cost by 38%, and they were able to reduce the TAT turnaround time by 87%. So for example, this particular team was taking 160 minutes to deploy a change in production, and now it just takes 20 minutes. And the idea is, this is huge, right? Somebody from Amazon or Google would be laughing at the statistics, but this is a huge leap. And yes, we have to improve a lot from here as well, but this is the data that we are proud of, indeed. So this is about success stories. Now I would like to finally take your time to learn some, to share some key learnings rather. And I have cautiously distributed these learnings into 3 areas, so that these are quick and snappy and you can remember those and go back and apply. Startup in an enterprise, scaling beyond startup, and future of workforce. So let's go a little bit in deep one by one. Startup in an enterprise. So what does it mean? So for us, the idea was start where and when it feels right. Especially for large enterprises and organizations, it's hard to navigate. So don't wait for whole ocean to boil or somebody to give you permissions. Just start small, think startup, and rest of the organization will follow the suit if you're successful. So start with experimenting. It's something that I would like to quote here, right? Innovation. So what is innovation? For some it is automation, for others it's AI. I think innovation is bringing change beyond boundaries to a certain system or subject, where the value outcome between then and now can be quantified in terms of benefits achieved. Keeping that in mind, bring the change from where you are. You don't have to be a part of ventures or incubation or innovation lab. If you are, well and good. But if you're not, and you're trying to navigate your path, then don't wait for that. Yes, there is a partnership, but innovation happens at each point in each area. So, the key learning from this is that experiment and test those experiments as soon as possible with your colleagues or with your friendly users. And then don't forget to invite and share your success celebrations and demos with the rest of the organization. And this is a nice segue to go to our next learning over here. Scaling beyond startup. Starting small as a startup is fine, but since we belong to a wide organization, an enterprise, we can't afford to forget to scale. Scaling not only in terms of onboarding more and more internal teams, for example, for pipeline, um, but folding in some key functions as well, like add functionalities for compliance, for security, and most importantly, addressing the org-wide blockers that hampers the speed to market and client experience. So scaling in terms of functionalities is also very important. With my three dimensions, the three P's that we talked about, I think scaling also in terms of those three P's is important. This applies to touch base the processes that are part of blast radius of that product and offering, the practices to be not limited to one area but to involve stakeholders within the enterprise such that a holistic solution could be provided to ultimate customers, and people. So scale across people by education, roadshows, and invest in creating a pipeline of champions, because champions will be the ultimate messengers who will expand your network and community and help scaling. And last but not the least is future of workforce. So what is workforce? Workforce is our people. Biggest strength behind success of any experiment is workforce. But it can become biggest impediment if not incorporated at right time. So it's all about people. Hence, don't forget to invest in people, the organization, across the organization. Build the culture of entrepreneurship, promote education, and reskill coachable people to build a internal pipeline that I just talked about, for to produce more enablers, engineers, and innovators. And we are a huge fan of communities and guilds at SCB. As I speak, there are multiple guilds and communities and chapters forming, and we are heavily investing in educating our workforce, because future of work is future of workforce. So I would like to just go back and summarize the key learnings. Startup in an enterprise, don't forget to scale beyond the startup and invest in your future of workforce. And with this, I would like to end my session with you. But I want to challenge you to go back and apply any one of these learnings that you have, you might have perceived from my session. And I would be very happy to be in touch with any of you if you have questions, or if you want to share your application or challenge that you have taken after reviewing this session. So all the best to your journeys, and thank you.